What's happening around the world?
And what's happening here at home? A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1, bringing you the news. I'm Mariam Benavijaya.
And I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Only I can build the economy, President says in Erabur.
මම අහන්නේ කාටද පුළුවන් එහෙම මුදල් වැඩි කරන්න? සජිත්ට පුළුවන්ද? අනුරට පුළුවන්? ඉල්ලෙයි.
How can Sri Lanka raise state sector employees' salaries? Sajid explains in Varakapola.
අපි අනිවාර්යෙන්ම 2025 ජනවාරි මාසයේ සිට මේ රටේ සමස්ත රාජ්‍ය සේවයේ මූලික වැටුප 124කින් ඉහළ දමනවායි කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න කැමතියි.
Priority given to Buddhism will remain the same, AKD tells Mahasangha conference.
බොහෝ දෙනා මගෙන් අහනවා මේ බෞද්ධ ආගමට ආණ්ඩු ප්‍රවස්ථාවෙන් 9 වෙනි වගන්තියෙන් ලැබී තිබෙන ස්ථානයේ අපි ආපහු 9 වෙනි වගන්තිය ඉවත් කරනවා. නෑ කිසිම පවතින බෞද්ධ අපේ හාමුදුරන් වහන්සේලා ඉදිරියට මම කියන්නේ.
New Gazette issued reducing water and sewerage charges.
Sri Lanka decides. Sri Lanka decides.
Independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe has stressed that he is the only one capable of building the economy. He was speaking at a public meeting in Batticaloa.
Representatives from various Muslim political parties supporting independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe attended the public rally in Batticaloa.
ජය වේවා. බඩු මිලත් අඩු වෙලා තියෙනවා. තවත් අඩු කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා මැඩම් කියනවා. ඒක මම පිළිගන්නවා. කොහොමද බඩු මිල අඩු කරන්නේ? රුපියල ශක්තිමත් කළා. තවත් සහනයක් නේද ඉල්ලන්නේ. අපි
The prices of goods have reduced. Madam says they must be reduced even more. I agree with that, but how can we achieve it? The rupee must be strengthened. We need to request additional relief. What if we increase our GDP to 92 billion US dollars? The rupee will strengthen even more. Who can accomplish that? Is it Sajid or is it Anura? No. Why are they contesting then? They should stay at home instead of wasting time. They avoided taking responsibility when given the chance. The Muslim community was affected when burials were not allowed. I am putting forward another act. Why didn't Sajid propose such an act? Any minister could have brought forward such legislation. I will also appoint a committee to provide compensation for those who were affected. This mistake was committed by the previous government, not my administration. However, as a government, I would like to apologize for it. Will Sajid or Anura ever do that? They wouldn't. We have a long way to go. We have just begun. We need 2 to 3 more years and additional funds. I have spoken with the IMF and 17 other countries, including China, and we have now secured the funds. We have entered into an agreement. If the agreement is breached, we won't receive funds. Sajid says he plans to discontinue the agreement, while Anura suggests amending the clauses. What will happen then? The value of the rupee will fall to 370.
කිවිසුම කඩන්න යනවා. අනුර කියනවා අපි මේ වගන්ති වෙනස් කරනවා. එහෙම කරාම මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ? රුපියල ආපහු 370ට යනවා. භාග වෙලාවට 400ට යනවා.
During his tenure in the opposition as a member of parliament, the president dedicated himself to serving the people. If he is to continue such service, we must vote for him in the presidential election on the 21st. For the people, our society and this country, we are uniting with him.
Compensation நான் கொடுக்க தயாராக இருக்கின்றேன் என்று கைச்சாத்திட்டு தந்திருக்கின்றார்.
நாங்கள் We are here today after achieving many successes. We have a responsibility to ensure his victory. Rauf Hakim travels around like a salesman carrying a bag, speaking to people, collecting votes and then returns in the next election to tell lies. That is how Hezbollah took away his university. It is disgraceful. After promising support, he now claims our president doesn't have even 300,000 votes. Isn't Hezbollah ashamed to make such a statement?
Samagi Jana Balavege presidential candidate Sajid Premadasa said that state sector employees' salaries will be increased by 24% from January 2025.
Sajid Premadasa made these statements addressing a public rally held in Varakapola today.
මෙතෙක් කල් මේ ආණ්ඩුව රාජ්‍ය නිලධාරීන්ව රාජ්‍ය සේවකින්ව සැලකුවේ රටට බරක් හැටියට. රටට පාඩුවක් හැටියට.
All this time, the government kept treating state sector employees as a burden, as an entity that made the country incur a loss. But now, all of a sudden, state sector employees seem to be very important to the government. Why is that? That is because they are opportunists. A few months ago, they were saying that the government sector is of no use and that the number of state sector employees need to be reduced. The same people are now engaging in a campaign of making fake promises. I must let you know that we do not make such fake promises. We will not only appoint a special commission to look into matching the salaries of these state sector employees with their cost of living, but also make sure to follow through with their recommendations. As the next step, starting from January 2025, we will increase the basic salary of state sector employees by 24%. By now, these state sector employees receive a living allowance of a mere 17,800 rupees. We will make sure to increase this to rupees 25,000. The basic salary of all state sector employees, allowances included, will be rupees 57,500. By now, the income tax on these people ranges from 6 to 36%. We will bring this percentage down to a range of 1% to 24%. Look at what our former leader Ranil Wickremesinghe is doing these days. He's spending millions to bribe party members into supporting him. I have heard that there are mammoth amounts of money, such as rupees 300 million dedicated per MP. Two of our Western Province MPs were bribed with rupees 300 million each, just to prevent us from winning. Our presidential candidate is the best opposition leader our country has ever seen, Sajith Premadasa. From N.M. Pereira to Ranil Wickremesinghe, we have had plenty of opposition leaders. However, if there was one leader who still dedicated himself to the development of the country and villages, that would be Sajith Premadasa.
During the rally, several electorate organisers of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party pledged their support to Sajith Premadasa.
The Mahasangha conference organised by the National Bhikkhu Front was held today at the National Youth Services Council in Maharagamal. The conference was organised by Bhikkhu organisations affiliated with the National People's Power.
Monks from various parts of Sri Lanka participated in the conference, which was themed Sangaruwane Mahapelahara. The Mahasangha blessed National People's Power presidential candidate Anurakumara Disanayake by chanting Sat Pirit.
Bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa atva ratanang odadang uttamang varang deva manussanang buddha dedena dottinana sandu paddava sabbe upasamintute.
ශ්‍රී ලංකේ මහා සංඝයා පැතු ජනතාවාදී නායකයෙක් බිහි කරගන්නට දැන් අවස්ථාව ලැබිලා තිබෙනවා.
We the Mahasangha have got the opportunity to be the advisors for the people, to appoint the leader they always hoped for. That is why this event is being held. Some make false allegations to reduce the momentum of all the people with us. This Mahasangha lineup will provide a solution to all that. We do not need to provide answers to every allegation separately. Some told us to do so at this Sangha convention. The best answer that can be given to these allegations raised by short-sighted, corrupt, destructive leaders and their supporters is this Sangha lineup, the Mahanayaka Theras and the Mahasangha, who are on this very stage.
සංඝ පෙළහර මේ වේදිකාවේ වැඩ ඉන්න මහානායක හඳුරන් වහන්සේලා ඇතුළු මහා සංඝරත්නය.
Presidential candidate of the NPP Anurakumara Disanayake addressed the gathering.
මොරදීලා කියනවා ජාතික ජනබලවේගයේ ආණ්ඩුවක් ආවොත් ඇත්කඳ විහාරේ පෙරහැර කරන්න ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා.
Some say that under a government of the NPP, not even the procession of the Atkanda Vihara will be held. Apparently, we will stop the Kandi Perahera. Some say that if the NPP come into power, the Mahasangha will not have the alms givings. I believe that the thousands of Mahasangha who are gathered here today, so many that there is not enough space in this hall, provides a very visual and practical answer to those who made these statements. The arrival of Mihindu Maharahat Thera set the foundation for Buddhist civilization in Sri Lanka. That is the foundation that we live upon. That is the basis for our growth. That is how our society was created. If anyone suggests that our base should be discarded just like that, they need to check their sanity. To those who say that the NPP would do that, I must say the same. We are a political party which has a very close bond with our roots. Personally, I grew up in a Sinhala Buddhist background. Should the spiritual features planted in us during growth be used to create enmities? Therefore, although we do wish to establish a government, we do not want to do that against anyone. We want to do it unitedly, joining forces. Many ask if we will change Article 9 of the Constitution, which prioritizes Buddhism in the country. Although we boast about our rich culture and heritage, it all seems to have been drowned by now. Neither the collapsed economy, neither the independence nor sovereignty will remain intact in a country with a collapsed economy. We are a nation that has lost its sovereignty. That is the end result of a series of actions over 76 years. We have a new challenge to achieve freedom. I must make a promise right now that the NPP will make a step-by-step policy framework to acquire the lost freedom. That is our roadmap. This corrupt political culture needs to be eliminated, and Sri Lanka must see a renaissance.
කැත්ත මජර දේශපාලන සංස්කෘතිය වෙනස් කරලා නව පුනරුදේ දේශපාලනයක් ලංකාවට ගේන්න ඕන.
තිඹිරිගල්ලේ දේවානන්ද තරුණ හිමිපාණන් වහන්සේ විසින් අනුර සහෝදරයාගේ සිතුවම් කරනවා එය අනුර සහෝදරයාට බාර කරන අවස්ථාවයි මේ.
A public meeting in support of independent presidential candidate Field Marshal Sarath Fonsek was held today near the Habaradua railway station.
The public meeting was held under the theme, "An independent man capable of building the nation in the presidential race."
I remember that in the past you all collectively yelled an Aragalaya for this country. Even if you did not go to the golface, you all shared the spirit of the Aragalaya. I spoke about it in Parliament. I frequently met with those who were part of the Aragalaya and exchanged ideas with them. I was asked why I don't become non-partisan. At that time, people also said that all 225 were the same. I am one of the 225, eager to listen to all the voices of the youth. I decided to give up all my party posts and become non-partisan. Now I ask those young people to join hands with me to build the country. Sajid Premadasa's stage is supported by the same smugglers who funded Mahinda Rajapaksa. All those involved in casinos, smuggling and betting seem to be in Sajid Premadasa's camp. The people need to understand this. Our beautiful motherland is in a state of collapse today. I appeal to these warriors. We have made it our mission to save the country and restore its dignity. Join me again for this mission. Do not follow political parties. Do not stand in front of party platforms. Do not join party organizations. Maintain your self-respect. I respectfully invite you to join me for this renewed mission.
During a question and answer session today, SLPP presidential candidate Namal Rajapaksa commented on proceeding with the IMF program.
So definitely we will face a power crisis in the future unless you immediately act within the next couple of months and make sure that we increase the capacity. And at the same time, unless you attract more foreign direct investments to the country, increase tourism by a massive number, not what we get now, maybe 2 or 3 times like what we are having now, we will not be able to create revenue for the government. Because the only option the current government gives you is you privatize the government properties. So what is next? So what are we going to do after 2027? So if this model has been successful for last 2 years, then we should be having about $8 billion in our accounts now. But it's still something close to 5 billion. So we don't pay our loans now. At least the bilateral loans, not the multilateral loans we have been paying. And we don't have imports at the moment. We have cut down on imports. So where are we going to head ourselves, or where are we going to go when we start opening imports? And when we start repaying our debt. So I personally think it's not about deviating from the IMF. It's doing the right thing for the country and its people. So if we want to continue, the only way to continue the IMF program is also to make sure that our domestic economy is strengthened and we create more employment.
Strengthening the people. Fighting for the truth. Leading a nation, forging the future. News first, with the people.
The only parliamentarian from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party represented by the hand symbol, Angajan Ramanathan, also declared his support for President Ranil Wickremesinghe today. And in addition, Sarathi Dushmantha Mitrapala, who was an acting secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, also pledged his support to Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Both Angajan Ramanathan and Sarathi Dushmantha Mitrapala convened a media briefing at the SLFP headquarters today and explained the reasons behind their decision to support Wickremesinghe.
The
people of Jaffna had many requests as they had so many unsolved problems. I spoke to the president about this. I even gave him a letter. The president promised to provide solutions to these problems. The current economic situation has given us some breathing space by now. The country was well run in the past 2 years. We believe that the country can be restored in another 5 years. That is why we as the Sri Lanka Freedom Party have pledged our support to President Ranil Wickremesinghe. We were always with the SLFP. In fact, I am the only SLFP parliamentarian as of right now.
Dushmantha
Mitrapala, who was on the Maithripala Sirisena faction during the SLFP power crisis, explained reasons behind his decision to support Ranil Wickremesinghe.
We conducted an analysis. It must be clearly stated that Ranil Wickremesinghe is the best person who could give leadership to our country. We have no personal issue with any former presidents. He is the one who made a statement that he personally will not support anyone during this presidential election. As an advisor to the party, I hope he will stand with the party decision.
MP Dayasiri Jayasekara convened a media briefing to express his views on the decisions made by MPs Angajan Ramanathan and Dushmantha Mitrapala.
Sri Lanka Nidahash Pakshe Mantrivarun
I believe two members of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Angajan Ramanathan and Dushmantha Mitrapala, have received certain privileges and benefits. I believe significant number of liquor licenses have been approved. There seems to be a large amount of money circulating in this election. We recall that Dushmantha criticized Namal Siripala's faction, claiming the decisions were wrong and that his faction's decisions were correct. After he was appointed secretary, it was Nimal Siripala himself who challenged and ultimately annulled this appointment. We are disgusted by the decision to rejoin the government.
මෙවැනි තත්ත්වයන් තුල අත වශයෙන් අපි කනගාටු වෙනවා. දැන් නැවත ආණ්ඩුවට එකතු වීම ගැන අපිට තියෙනවා පිළිකුලක්.
Joining Newsfirst's digital segment Crossbow, Minister Jeevan Thondaman explained the reasons behind his party's decision to support Ranil Wickremesinghe in the upcoming presidential election.
You mentioned that Ranil Wickremesinghe has a young team. Quite ironically, he is the old man in the election, the presidential race as well. If you are saying that, there's youth representation, people you mentioned, Kanchana, Jeevan Thondaman, Shehan Semasinghe, and even Harin and all of those people, no one is from the president's party. Yes, he is an independent candidate now, but these are all, people who will be contesting from different parties for the upcoming general election.
I mean, why the double standards, right? I mean, just think about it. Like, if the president has members from other parties, we immediately accuse him saying, oh, nobody's from your party. I think that was obvious. We knew it when the president came in with one seat, right? He can't run the government by himself. So, obviously, he had to take in others.
But what if they keep jumping out?
But similarly, if you look at the opposition as well, same thing can apply to them. All the people who were part of the chaos during the former president's regime are now part of the opposition's chaos. So I'm just saying the same standard of measurement needs to be applied to that. At politics, at the end of the day, there are no permanent friends or enemies. I think this setting proved it. People must understand this is a presidential election. It is not a general election. If it is a president election, you are selecting the captain of the team. Right? The team you can select later. But as far as the presidential election goes, I think the focus should only be on President Ranil Wickremesinghe. And when a general election comes, I think people will be able to decide who they want part of the next president's team.
Members of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuda have rallied to support Namal Rajapaksa and Ranil Wickremesinghe on the other hand. The party is currently split into two factions, each representing different viewpoints.
Newsfirst yesterday reported on certain allegations raised by D. Veerasinghe and Tissa Kuttiarachchi on the ban on chemical fertilizers, claiming it caused issues for farmers at the maiden rally of SLPP presidential candidate Nama Rajapaksa in Anuradhapura on the 21st of August, as well as SM Chandrasena's and Mahindananda Alutgamage's responses to these comments. SLPP MP Tissa Kuttiarachchi once again commented on the matter today.
This fertilizer crisis is not my responsibility. Gotabaya Rajapaksa was behind the fertilizer crisis. I submitted the cabinet paper to bring in chemical fertilizers. After my proposal was rejected, it was Gotabaya Rajapaksa who implemented the ban on chemical fertilizers and pushed for organic alternatives. I opposed this in the cabinet, but he told me not to interfere as it was Shashindra Rajapaksa who was handling the matter. When we criticize, we focus on policies, not personal lives. The Minister of Agriculture should address questions about fertilizers. Why else would you appoint someone with executive powers in a ministerial post in the cabinet? Yesterday, he claimed that Shashindra Rajapaksa should be held accountable. Lies. Shashindra Rajapaksa took over the job amidst that. Mahindananda Alutgamage was the one who submitted the cabinet papers for fertilizers. The state minister at the time was not Shashindra Rajapaksa. There were conflicts when Shashindra Rajapaksa became the state minister, and Mahindananda Alutgamage created those conflicts. After Mahindananda Alutgamage was removed from his position, he was at the president's house until Gotabaya Rajapaksa chased him away. During the attacks, it was Alutgamage who even answered calls coming into temple trees. Enough about it. We discuss policies, not personal lives. The cabinet ministers, not the state minister, should sign and submit cabinet papers. The president should have told the cabinet minister to stay quiet. Who signed it? Who proposed it? If Gotabaya Rajapaksa said anything, ask him. Their words do not align with the documents. You can either agree or disagree with the story. Responsible actions are reflected in the documents, and this includes the actions of Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage. The cabinet minister is the one required to sign and submit the cabinet paper, which was done by Mahindananda Alutgamage. He is responsible for the failure of the country's agricultural policy. Whose scarecrow did they burn? Was it Tissa Kuttiarachchi's? Was it D. Veerasinghe's? It was Mahindananda Alutgamage's. At the time, Mahindananda Alutgamage claimed that his political career is over. There's nothing left but to give it his all. What a great show. Mahindananda Alutgamage, who was once highly esteemed, has become quiet now. Shame on you, Mahindananda Alutgamage. Maintain your dignity and speak with respect. A fox from Ampara and a fox from Badulla were brought here to cause trouble. The organic fertilizer program was not initiated by us, but was pushed by Nama Rajapaksa's uncle. That is why we had to leave. We explained it to them. We warned them about it. The farmers faced severe challenges for 3 years.
අපි කතා කරන්න අපේ මුකරිකමත් එක්ක අපේ හයියත් එක්ක ඉතින් ඒ නිසා චන්ද්‍රසේන මහත්මයාට මම කියනවා පෞද්ගලිකව ඔබතුමාට තියෙන චෝදනා පිළිබඳව අපි කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ දේශපාලනික වශයෙන් කතා කරන නිසා ඔබ වැඩිහිටියෙක් අපේ පක්ෂීය ජේෂ්ඨයෙක් අන්නේ ජේෂ්ඨත්වයේ ගරුත්වයේ තියලා දේශපාලනික වශයෙන් පහර දෙනවා මිසක් සත්තුන්ගේ නම් කී කියා එනකොට පහර දෙන්න අපි ඒක තවම සූදානම් නැහැ චන්ද්‍රසේන මහත්මයා තමයි ජනාධිපතිතුමාගෙන් ලකුණු දාගන්න ජනාධිපතිතුමාව එක්කගෙන ගිහලා අනුරාධපුරේ කාබනික පෝර කියලා පෙන්නුවේ නිකන් පෝර දැක්ක දැම්මම මඤ්ඤොක් කලේ මෙච්චරයි සර් කාබනික පෝර දැම්මම මඤ්ඤොක් කලේ මෙච්චරයි සර් කියලා පෙන්නුවේ අපිද ඒ පෙන්නුවේ චන්ද්‍රසේන මහත්මයා ඊළඟට උග්දණ්ඩ රසායනික පෝර දැම්මම උග්දණ්ඩ මේ වගේ කාබනික පෝර දැම්මම උග්දණ්ඩ බටලිය වගේ කියලා කිව්වේ කවුද ජනකවක් කුඹරමතිවරයා රාජ්‍යමති විදියට ඉතින් අපි පලිද අද කොහෙද ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉන්නේ අපි ඕවා කිව්වේ නෑ ඒ නිසා ඒගොල්ලෝ කියන එකට ජනාධිපතිවරයා සහ අමාත්‍යවරයාට සහ රාජ්‍යමතිවරයාට තල්ලුවක් දෙන්න තමයි පසුපෙළ മന്ത്രിවරු විදියට අපි හැම වෙලාවෙම බැලුවා ආණ්ඩුව පරිස්සම් කරන් අපි හිතුවේ නෑනේ මේක අතරමඟ නවත්තයි කියලා ඒ ගත්ත වැරදි ප්‍රතිපත්ති වලට වග කියන්න ඕන මහින්දානන්ද අලුත්ගමගේ ජනකවක් කුඹුර අපි නෙමෙයි ප්‍රසන්න රණතුංග අපි නෙමෙයි රෝහිත අබේගුණවර්ධන පවිත්‍රා දේවි වන්නේ ආරච්චි මෙතිනිය මුට්ටිය දැම්මනේ ගිහිල්ලා අපි නෑ කියනොද පැණිය ධම්මික පැණිය බීලි වෙලා කියලා ඔළුව වැනුවනේ. අපිද වැනුවේ. ඉතින් මං අහන්නේ මේ ඔක්කොම පරිප්පු කන්න ඕන අපිද? ඒගොල්ලෝ වනන්න ඕන පැණි බීල ඔක්කොම වනලා දැන් වනාගෙන ගිහිල්ලා කෘෂිකර්ම ප්‍රතිපත්ති කියනල්ල මේක විනාශ කළා. දැන් ඒකත් රනිල් මහත්තයා ගොඩක්කොට ගිහිල්ලා අපෙන් අහන උත්තර දෙන්න තිස්ස කුට්ටිය ආරච්චි කවුද?
A UN human rights report has urged Sri Lanka's creditors to support the country's economic and social rights.
The UN Human Rights Office has called on Sri Lanka's creditors to provide the government with the fiscal space needed to realize economic, social and cultural rights. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk in a new report said that economic policy decisions must align with Sri Lanka's international human rights obligations. He added that the ongoing effects of the 2022 economic crisis and subsequent austerity measures have particularly impacted the poor, especially women. The report issued by the UN Human Rights Office has also identified renewed threats to fundamental freedoms in Sri Lanka, highlighting new or proposed regressive laws, erosion of democratic checks and balances, ongoing threats and intimidation against civil society and journalists, and the recurrence of serious human rights violations from the past. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk emphasized the importance of the upcoming presidential and parliamentary elections as an opportunity for Sri Lanka to recommit to the transformational changes demanded by a broad cross-section of its citizens, including accountability and reconciliation. The report points to several laws and bills introduced by the government since 2023 which grant security forces broad powers and significantly expand restrictions on freedoms of expression, opinion and association. Turk noted that this trend is particularly concerning during the pre-election period. Despite a promised moratorium, authorities have continued to use the Prevention of Terrorism Act to arrest and detain individuals, while the report highlights recent cases of arbitrary arrests, detentions, torture and deaths in custody. The report also describes a long-standing pattern of intimidation and harassment of journalists and civil society actors, especially those working on enforced disappearances, land disputes and environmental issues. Families of the forcibly disappeared face intimidation, arrest and surveillance by security services in their attempts to seek the truth or commemorate their loved ones.
A Gazette notification has been issued reducing water and sewerage charges. The Gazette was issued by Minister of Water Supply and Estate Infrastructure Development, Jeevan Thundaman. The tariff revisions were effective from the 21st of August.
Fees are reduced under the domestic, government schools, assisted schools and government-approved charitable institutions categories excluding Samurdhi beneficiaries and estate houses. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board said that percentage of tariff reduction is over 5%. Accordingly, the fee for 0 to 5 units in the domestic category has been reduced by Rs 10 from 60 to Rs 50 per unit. And the fee charged for a unit between 76 to 100 units has been reduced by Rs 20 from Rs 270 to Rs 250. The fee of Rs 60 for all units under government and government-assisted schools category and government-approved charitable institutions and government hospitals category has been reduced by Rs 5 and the new fee is Rs 55. A unit of water used for government hospitals, which used to be Rs 100 per unit, has been reduced by Rs 5 to Rs 95. However, the Water Board stated that no revision has been made in the monthly service charge under the water tariff revision. The Supreme Court announced today that the Special Determination on the Online Safety Act Amendment Bill will be forwarded to the Speaker on a future date.
Former Human Rights Commissioner Ambika Satkunanathan challenged the Online Safety Act Amendment Bill on the grounds that it violates the Constitution. The petition that was taken up today before a bench comprising judges Dilip Nawaz, Shiran Gunaratna and Achala Venkapulli. While the Attorney General was named as the respondent in the petition, Attorney Pulasti Hevamanna appeared on behalf of the petitioner. Additional Solicitor General President's Counsel Viraj Dayaratna appeared on behalf of the Attorney General.
Several factions have commented on the Supreme Court's order issued yesterday concerning the postponement of the local government elections.
The Election Commission and Executive President Ranil Wickremesinghe have violated 3 articles of the Constitution. This is why individuals, including Ranil Wickremesinghe, should recognize that there is actually a law in this country and that law must be adhered to.
What does this judgment mean? It means that the President's action and behavior should be constitutional. If the President issues orders that are against the Constitution, officials must be extremely cautious. Why has the Election Commission implemented this unconstitutional order? The court has criticized the Election Commission for not opposing the President's decision and orders. The Honourable Court argues that the Election Commission had a duty to uphold their responsibilities regardless of what the President says.
Lawyers affiliated with the Samagi Jana Sandhane convened a media briefing today. They expressed views on the court order over the violation of fundamental rights due to the failure to hold local government elections.
Simply because he is the president of the country, he cannot go about violating the constitution of the country for political gains. When the first citizen of the country violates the constitution, who are we supposed to turn to? The courts. When we take the matter to court, the same people influence the judiciary. However, as I mentioned before, I am thankful that the Supreme Court announced this historic decision for the future of this country, its supreme law and its citizens. What's most important here is that the President has acted very selfishly here. Another problem comes up because he is someone who is seeking the people's mandate this presidential election. During his election period, the Supreme Court made an important decision to declare that Article 12 of the Constitution was violated by the non-provision of funds and not informing the Cabinet about the local government election. He may be immune to repercussions due to his presidential powers. However, he also played the role of a minister in this situation. He is the Minister of Finance. He needs to be very careful as his ministerial position will only last for 2 more months. At the end of the 2 months, action will be taken against him. He may keep saying he has no regrets about not holding the local government elections, but he is definitely about to regret it very much.
People's Action for Free and Fair Elections, or PAFREL, said that according to the Supreme Court's order regarding the postponement of local government elections, the freedom of speech of the general public cannot be restricted.
The message conveyed by this judgment is that the freedom of speech of the general public cannot be restricted under any circumstances, even during an economic crisis. The law must be applied equally to all. It is clear that no future ruler can remove the universal franchise of the general public. Elections cannot be delayed beyond the legal limits. It was also demonstrated that the Election Commission has the authority to decide on the timing of elections. This decision confirmed that there were additional measures the Election Commission could have taken. It also underscores that government officials in this country must act according to the instructions and guidelines of the Election Commission. The Maharagama Women's Win, which is dedicated to supporting Sajith Premadasa's presidential campaign, held a meeting today at Sri Jayawardhanapura Court, chaired by Jalani Premadasa.
Niyata Janapati Sajith Premadasa Medikunge ආදරණීය මහත්මයාව ජනනි ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිණියගේ සම්ප්‍රාප්තියයි නිරෝධයේදී සිදුවන්නේ.
Samagi Jana Balawege MP SM Marika, SJB Maharagama electorate organizer Gamini Tilakasiri and others attended the event.
පින්තාරු වැඩමුළුව හා ප්‍රදර්ශනය NVQ සහතිකලාබී වෘත්තීය පින්තාරු ශිල්පියෙක් ශිල්පිනියක් වීමට ඔබත් අදම එක්වන්න. විස්තර හා ව්‍යාපදිංචි වීමට අමතන්න 0777 6040. චැට් පින්තාරු අභිමාන දේශීය දැව පින්තාරු කරන්නේ උන්නතිය උදෙසා. For a rich country රට අනුරට ජාතික ජන බලවේගය.
Shakti Crown, a revolutionary addition to Sri Lankan Tamil television, will broadcast its grand finale live tomorrow at 7 p.m. on our sister channel Shakti TV. This landmark reality music show, designed to redefine the genre, is a collaborative effort among media giants, MTV MBC Media Network, Newsfirst, Stein Studios and M Entertainment.
You might be wondering about what's happening in the background. You can feel and you can sense the beats of music. As you can see, preparations are underway for the grand finale of one of Sri Lanka's unique singing competitions, Shakti Crown. 6 competitors, 1 champion. Who will be crowned as Sri Lanka's next singing sensation?
Shakti Crown, set to redefine Sri Lankan Tamil television, will unveil the country's next singing sensation in tomorrow's highly anticipated finale. Shakti Crown is a groundbreaking collaboration between media giants, MTV MBC Media Network, Sri Lanka's leading news brand Newsfirst, the state-of-the-art Stein Studios and M Entertainment, a revolutionary force in the music world. Over 5,000 contestants from across Sri Lanka participated in the initial auditions, which covered all 25 districts and 9 provinces. 120 singers battled through to perform at the grand launch of the Shakti Crown concert at the Stein Studios in Ratmalana. The competition has now narrowed down to the final 6 contestants. They include P. Sibsabeshan from Batiklo, representing coach Ashwini's team, GK from Putlam and ST Mayuran from Mathale, who are standouts in coach Chandru's team, Achaya from Kandy, Akash Madan from Jaffna and Pranavi from Kandy, who is part of coach Roy's team. Don't miss the chance to catch their extraordinary performances live and find out who will be crowned Sri Lanka's next singing sensation. Tune in live tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Shakti TV for all the thrilling action.
For a rich country රට අනුරට ජාතික ජන බලවේගය.
Shakti Crown Grand Finale.
Mayuran SC space number 6 and send it to 7788.
For a rich country රට අනුරට ජාතික ජන බලවේගය.
Welcome back. Continuing in more local news, Australia's United Petroleum launched its operations in Sri Lanka.
The launch of Australia's United Petroleum in Sri Lanka took place in Colombo. United Petroleum's first oil tanker reached the port of Colombo yesterday during the ceremony. The ceremony was attended by Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara and the Australian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Paul Stevens.
2 years ago, when we looked at the possibility of getting more retail operators to Sri Lanka, our initial thought process was that it will help Sri Lanka to fulfill the requirements of the petroleum sector, but also bringing in competition, bringing in quality operators would increase the value in Sri Lanka and also make CPC also a better operator in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has for the longest time had a monopoly in the petroleum and the electricity sectors, and now we have 5 retail operators in the Sri Lankan market. United Petroleum, as you said, operates in Australia. You have a wealth of experience. You have the technology, you have the financial ability, you have the experience in doing this business. So that's what we wanted in Sri Lanka, to attract investments, attract the right people. So we have introduced many schemes, the pricing formulas to make sure that the businesses are viable, and also the new laws that have been now begun to be enacted to have a separate regulator for the energy sector, especially the petroleum sector, so that the quality, the pricing, and also other services are maintained by the regulator, making sure that not just the operators but the consumers are also protected.
United Petroleum is set to enhance its presence in Sri Lanka by upgrading 150 existing filling stations and constructing 50 new ones.
Over $300 billion, one of the largest Australian investments in Sri Lanka ever. And I think you can say that it's a sign of faith and confidence in Sri Lanka's economic future and in the current economic reform path that the Sri Lankan government has embarked upon. United Petroleum is a very well-known premier Australian company in fuel retail, and I think United Petroleum Lanka will make a very welcome addition to the fuel retail landscape in Sri Lanka. It will offer more choice to the Sri Lankan consumer and introduce increased competition to the marketplace. So I see this as a win-win outcome for the Australian investor and for the Sri Lankan government, and of course for the Sri Lankan consumer. I think the pathway for Sri Lanka to sustained economic growth is through increased foreign direct investment, increased competition, fewer subsidies and market distortion, increased transparency, and increased openness and liberalisation. And I think the entry of United Petroleum into the marketplace here and this launch that we are having this evening epitomises the economic opening that Sri Lanka needs to undertake to safeguard and to enhance its economic future.
This expansion aims to elevate the quality of products and services across the country, reflecting the high standards of its Australian parent branch. The initiative is expected to contribute to Sri Lanka's economic growth while providing a comprehensive service experience.
The 10th edition of the military exercise Mitra Shakti 2024 concluded in Madurai.
The final demonstration of the joint exercise Mitra Shakti X between the Sri Lanka Army and the Indian Army took place at the Madurai Army Training School grounds. This exercise, designed to strengthen the bonds of goodwill and cooperation between the Sri Lanka Army and the Indian Army, showcased the culmination of extensive theoretical and practical training focused on counter-terrorism. The Indian Army contingent, led by Colonel Ravindra Ahlawat, participated in the exercise, which also included cultural and sports events aimed at fostering camaraderie and mutual understanding among the troops. The State Minister of Defence Premita Bandara Tennakun graced the event as the chief guest. The Indian High Commissioner Santosh Jha, Army Commander Lieutenant General Vikum Liyanage, senior officers from other ranks from both armies were present. The event concluded with an exhibition of military equipment used during exercise, providing a comprehensive overview of the collaboration's outcomes.
The final rites of late Jayantha Silva, founder of the Pragna Pradeepa concept and former member of the Western Provincial Council who engaged in public service for more than 3 decades, took place today at the Borella Public Cemetery.
At the time of his demise, on the 21st of this month, Jayantha de Silva was 78 years old and he had been ill for some time. A large number of people gathered today to pay their last respects and his body was kept at his residence in Boralla. Jayantha de Silva is an alumnus of Ananda College, Colombo. He entered politics from the United National Party in 1983 and was elected to the Colombo Municipal Council in 1987. He was elected to the Western Provincial Council in the year 1996 by people's vote. And when the Samagi Jana Bala Vegaya was founded under the leadership of Sajid Premadasa, he worked as the Boralla co-organizer of that party. The final rites of Jayantha de Silva were carried out this afternoon at the Boralla Public Cemetery.
The Grand Master of Broadcasting, Dr. Vijay Korea, was recognized for his 60 years of his continuous contribution to media at a ceremony last evening.
A grand salute for Dr. Vijay Korea was organized by the batch of 2011 St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. The felicitation ceremony was held yesterday in Colombo with the presence of his family, friends and well-wishers.
Well, what should I say? You know, this whole thing, even that was a surprise to me. I didn't see any of it until now. My 60 years, I don't know how it happened, but this I know. Out of college, I opted to become a chartered accountant, and I was articled 1.5 years, going for lectures at the Institute of Chartered Accountancy, which is still in the same place, at Longden Place. And as dear Siobhan mentioned, it so happened that I was thrust before a microphone on that occasion when Thompson didn't turn up. I consider this to be a divine appointment because I never ever had any intention of becoming a broadcaster, of going before a microphone, or any of that. I learned one thing, that, you know, when you are in an occupation, you must do what you like and like what you're doing. And that's how it happened where broadcasting was concerned.
Warden of St. Thomas's College, Reverend Mark Bilimoria, addressed the event.
There are two things I just want to say about our guest today, our guest of honor today. The first is that he is a loyal and dedicated, devoted old boy of St. Thomas's College. He has served on the STC OBA Executive Committee for a number of years. He has even served on the Board of Governors of the college, and he continues even now to have the interests of the college at heart.
Hudson Samarasinghe, the chairman of the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, also spoke at the event.
අම්මෙක්කප්පෙක් නැති අනාථ දරුවෙක් ප්‍රථම බරට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ 80 දිනකට දිවුරුම් දෙන්න යන්න.
I was to be sworn into Parliament, but I was the Chairman and Director General of the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. That was when I went and met Vijay Korea and asked him to take up the Director General title, even though he had retired by then. He right away told me to go ahead and become a parliamentarian, but refused to take up the title. I kept begging him for hours. He kept saying no. Then I visited him for the second time. I gave Vijay the one Parliament entry slip I had and requested him to be there on the day of taking oaths, as I have no parents or family. The day I took oaths in Parliament was a very emotional day. Vijay actually showed up for me on that day. The small story itself is all you need to know to understand the kind of person Vijay is.
The keynote address was delivered by Group Director of the Capital Maharaja Group, Siobhan Daniel.
He represents a very Sri Lankan, a very proud transformation, transition from what was a colonial outpost to what we are today, with all our faults, proudly Sri Lankan. Vijay Korea broke glass ceilings. He taught me, he taught us, a generation of broadcasters, that it is possible to become excellent as a Sri Lankan. Sri Lanka today is looking for leadership, desperately, frustratingly looking for leadership, looking for inspiration, looking for icons. We don't have to look far. We have them right here. Dr. Vijay Korea, you are many things. You are an actor, a broadcaster. You are a compeer par excellence. You are a chef de ceremony. But perhaps most importantly to me and to many thousands of others, You, sir, are an inspiration.
Dr. Vijay Korea was also honoured in recognition of his extraordinary 60-year career in broadcasting. A commemorative coin embossed with the theme of the occasion, marking his 6 decades of experience in broadcasting, was presented to Dr. Korea by the 2011 batch of St. Thomas's College. The event featured a compilation of heartfelt messages and well wishes from his admirers, celebrating his remarkable contributions to the industry and their lives on a personal note.
The second installation ceremony of the Oil Island School Science Association was held in Colombo yesterday.
The All Island School Science Association, also known as AISSA, is an association formed by members of school science societies spread across the island in a collaborative effort to bring together science enthusiasts from various schools to foster scientific education, research and collaboration. The formation of AISSA was initiated by DS Senanayake College, Colombo, which recognized the importance of a unified platform for science associations. The first step involved the active participation of Kingswood College, Kandy, Wesley College, Colombo, Ananda College, Colombo and Anula Vidyalaya Nugekoda. Professor Angika Umesh Halwathura, Professor S.R.D. Rosa, Upali Chandra Kumara, Sunetra Wickramasinghe, Dr. Lalit Ekanayake were among several key figures present for the event.
In international news, US Vice President Kamala Harris capped one of the most extraordinary months in modern political history with a speech that rallied Democrats around the themes of patriotism and cast Donald Trump as the enemy of classic American principles.
US Vice President Kamala Harris formally accepted the Democratic nomination for president with a rousing call to end the war in Gaza and to fight tyranny around the world, drawing a sharp contrast with Republican Donald Trump. On the final and most anticipated night of the 4-day Chicago convention, Harris promised to chart a new way forward as she and Trump enter the final 11 weeks of the Raise a Close campaign. After days of protest from Palestinian supporters who were disappointed at not getting a speaking spot at the convention, Harris delivered a pledge to secure Israel, bring in the hostages home from Gaza and end the war in the Palestinian enclave.
With respect to the war in Gaza, President Biden and I are working around the clock because now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. Clear. I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7.
Harris spent a chunk of her speech talking about the US economy, saying strengthening the middle class would be a defining goal for her presidency as part of building what she called an opportunity economy. She fleshed out that vision during her speech, saying she would seek to cut taxes for middle class households, end the housing shortage and protect pensions and healthcare for the elderly.
The middle class is where I come from. My mother kept a strict budget. We lived within our means, yet we wanted for little. And she expected us to make the most of the opportunities that were available to us and to be grateful for them. Because, as she taught us, opportunity is not available to everyone. That's why we will create what I call an opportunity economy where everyone has the chance to compete and a chance to succeed. We will provide access to capital for small business owners and entrepreneurs and founders. And we will end America's housing shortage and protect Social Security and Medicare.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight.
Thank you very much for joining us. Good night and take care.